Our deepest fear isn't that we're inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. Maya Angelou. I bring this quote up because when you're in your healing process, you usually focus on your current fears, right? And those fears are the obvious ones. You're afraid that if you start healing, you're going to lose people you care about. You're afraid you're going to lose relationships. You're afraid you're going to lose places, behaviors, and routines, the things that make you feel comfortable and make you feel safe, right? Those are the fears that we talk about the most, but the real fear, right? The real fear is that if you actually do the work, you might actually become the person that you've been wanting to be. And then what? What does that mean, right? What does that mean for you? What does that mean for your life if you stop settling and stop abandoning yourself? And I'm going to answer that question today as we talk about the third roadblock, self-hate. But before we get into that, let me introduce myself. Hi, I'm Rose, and I'm your host here at the Sister Love Podcast. And I'm just one woman with one voice trying to help women heal one story at a time. And if you're a woman who is being at the beginning stages of her healing journey and don't know where to start and searching for resources, support, and education, then you are in the right place. I would love for you to become part of our sisterhood. All you have to do is hit the subscribe button, turn on the notification so that you never miss another episode of the Sister Love Podcast. And don't forget to join our Facebook group, Sister Let's Heal Together, where we keep those conversations going, share our stories, and support each other along the way. In the last two episodes, episode 3 and episode 4, we've been talking about the roadblocks that show up when you're trying to create safety in your healing process, right? In episode 3, we talked about the first roadblock, which was regulating your nervous system. In episode 4, we talked about the second roadblock, which was guilt. If you haven't watched them, I suggest you go back and watch them first before you watch this one. So, today, in this episode, we're going to talk about the third roadblock, which is self-hate. This one took me a long time to work through, right? And I'm not even going to lie. It still shows for me sometimes. So when talking about self-hate today, I'm also going to talk about what we're scared of losing in the process of healing. Because self-hate creates a fear around loss. But before I get into that part, I want to tell you about my experience with self-hate, because for me, self-hate didn't just start with my abusive relationship. It started way before that. So I don't know if y'all have heard this before, but they say you really have one main relationship pattern in your life and it recycles over and over again, just in different people and different situations. And the core relationship that usually shape that pattern is the relationship you have with your parents. So if that relationship is healthy, you end up repeating healthy patterns. If that relationship is unhealthy, you will usually repeat unhealthy patterns. It shows up in your friendships. It shows up at work. It shows up in how you communicate. It shows up in what you tolerate. It shows up in what you accept as normal. And for a lot of people, we end up in traumatic or abusive situations later in life. There's usually a core of unhealthy relationships somewhere. And for many of us, it started at home. For me, my relationship with my parent was abuse. I grew up watching my dad beat my mom. And you know how people say your mom teach you how to love yourself and your dad teach you how someone else loves you or supposed to love you. So if your mother isn't loving herself, she can't teach you how to love yourself. If your father version of love is control and abuse, then that becomes the example too. So for me, my self-hate came from my mother's self-hate. my mom didn't love herself. So she couldn't show me what loving yourself looks like. And if you never got taught self-love, what do? You start thinking you don't deserve it. So I grew up not really loving who I was, not because I was born hating myself, but because I was never taught how to build love around myself. So I looked for love outside of me. And the love that I saw modeled the most was the love that my father had. Control, mistreatment, and abuse. So I grew up when people mistreated me, when people bullied me, when people talked about me, talked to me crazy, when people disrespected me, one part of me just accepted because my environment taught me that it was normal. Like, this is what happens. This is how people show love, right? This is what love looks like. So yeah, we start confusing hate for love. We switch them. We mix them up. And I had to realize later on the reason I didn't stand up for myself, the reason I allowed people to treat me the way they did, the reason I did things that I didn't want to do is because I had no self-love. See, the absence of self-love is the presence of self-hate. I'm going to say that again. The absence of self-love is the presence of self-hate. So if you're never been taught to love yourself, if you never experienced this, if you never seen it in real life, then trying to build it later is going to feel complicated because you're trying to create something that you don't have a reference for. You have to do this digging. You have to do this inner work. You have to start asking yourself what self-love even means for you. Another challenge that comes up about love is that self-love is not a one-size-fits-all word, right? Self-love has a basic definition, sure, but how it looks in real life depends on the person. What I need might not be what someone else needs. What makes me feel safe might not what makes someone else feel safe. And self-love can change as you grow, and you might need one thing now and something different later. So to bring this to a full circle, self-hate was a roadblock for me because I never knew what self-love looked like, right? And if you never been taught it, you never experienced it, you never seen it, it could be a roadblock for you too. Because how do you create safety within yourself when you don't even like yourself? How do you build safety when the voices inside your head is always tearing you down, right? So today, what I want to talk about is what self-hate actually looks like, how it blocks safety in your healing process, and how we start shifting self-hate into self-love step by step. So now that I told you a little bit about my story with self-hate and how I believe the self-help developed for me, I want to talk about what usually come up when we actually try to build self-love. Because the truth is, self-love requires self-worth. You have to understand what you believe you're worth in order to love yourself. If you don't believe that you're worthy of something, you're not going to go after it, and you're definitely not going to allow it into your life. So when we start talking about self-love, what we're really talking about is worth. And that's where fear starts to show up, right? One of the biggest fears that come up when you start loving yourself is the fear of loss. We're scared that if we really start loving ourselves, if we start setting boundaries, if we start having standards, if we start having requirements for how people treat us, that we're going to lose things. We're scared we're going to lose people we love. People we invested time into, people we invested energy into, people who've been part of our life for a long time. And that fear makes sense, right? Because in life, we outgrow things. And yes, we outgrow people too. So eventually, if people are aligned with who we were, but not who we are becoming, a decision has to be made. And that decision isn't always because people don't love us, okay? Sometimes people just don't understand who you are becoming. And when someone has never seen that version of you before, fear, it kicks in for them, right? And when fear kicks in, survival kicks in, right? Survival of the fittest. So to protect what feels familiar for them, they might unconsciously sabotage your growth. Not because they're just bad people or they don't want to see you grow, but they're threatened, right? They're threatened about what they don't know. So another fear that comes up is losing access to things that brings you comfort. Things like drinking, smoking, certain environments, certain habits, right? These things are we adapt to these things. These things help us cope. They help us tolerate life. They help us feel okay enough to survive. But as we grow, we start realizing those things are not fit for us anymore. And now we're in a space where we don't have to use them, and we don't feel like we belong anymore. And that's uncomfortable. And that's where fear of rejection come in, the fear of judgment, fear of feeling like the odd man out. So instead of choosing yourself, you stay in a place that feels familiar, even if that's no longer good for you, right? Another big fear is around opportunities. As you grow, you start noticing that some jobs, some careers, and some roles don't align with who you are becoming. And at one point in your life, working somewhere that drained you made sense, right? Because we had to pay bills, right? Survival was the main goal. You got to do what you got to do, right? Bills are due. But as you heal, you start noticing that this place feeds your self-hate. It makes you miserable. The people around you keeps you stuck. And then this fear shows up again, right? What happened if I leave, right? What happened if I fail? What happened if nothing better comes? So you may stay, not because it's good for you, because it's familiar. And familiars feel safer than the unknown. And that's usually what all it comes down to, the unknown. The fear isn't about losing what you have. The fear is about not knowing what comes next, because you already survived what you know, right? You already know how to function there, right? But healthy relationships, walking in purpose and actually loving yourself, those things are scary when you never experienced them before. So in your mind, you say, at least I know how to survive here, even if here hurts. To be honest, this shows up for me around this podcast so many times. It's scary to show up and tell my story. It's scary to be vulnerable in public. It's scary to know people will judge, talk, and misunderstood or criticize me. But loving yourself means understanding that none of that matters, right? And it doesn't decide your worth, right? Growth requires change, right? Growth requires stepping into the unknown. And that's why I keep saying you have to be willing, because once you're willing, you become aware. And once you are aware, you finally have a choice. Before healing, you didn't have a choice. You were moving unconsciously, just surviving. Now you have awareness and you have information and you have options. Even if you don't make the healthiest choice right away, you have a choice. And that's the goal, to build enough self-love and self-worth that you can choose yourself even when it's scary, right? All right. So now that I talked about the fears that come up when we start trying to develop self-love and self-worth, I want to share something that came up for me when I was praying to God about loving myself and feeling worthy. I remember asking God, like, why is this so hard for me? Why do I feel like I have to work so hard just to feel okay with myself? And what I heard was simple. He said, you were worthy when you were born. I gave that to you. It is your birthright. And when I heard that, I was a little confused, because my whole life I was out here trying to become worthy, trying to prove my worth, trying to earn my worth, right? Like, if I do enough, if I sacrifice enough, if I survive enough, then maybe I'll deserve love, right? And God was like, no, you were worthy before anything ever happened to you. You didn't have to do anything, right? You didn't have to conform. You didn't have to beg. I created you, so your worth is already there. See? And then I realized our worth isn't outside of us. It isn't a relationship. It isn't in validation. It's not in approval. It is in our Creator. And once that clicked for me, something shifted, right? Because that means unconditional love is already inside of us. We don't have to go looking for it, right? We don't have to chase it. We just have to receive it. And the sooner we're willing to receive it, the sooner life will start changing. And it's already yours, right? You just have to claim it. So right now, I really want you to do this. Say it, say it, say it. I am worthy. I am worthy of a healthy relationship. I am worthy of loving myself. I am worthy of peace. I am worthy of safety. I am worthy of joy. And I'm going to say this for me. This is what I'm saying to myself today. I am worthy of my voice being heard, right? I am worthy of my podcast reaching people, right? I am worthy of walking in a room I never been in before. I am worthy of financial stability, right? I am worthy of a peaceful home. Whatever you've been telling yourself you're not worthy of, say it now and say it loud. I am worthy of this because God says so. I am worthy of this because God says so. He gave me a gift and today I'm willing to take it, right? Now, that right there, that was the first step. That was the declaration I made to myself because healing always starts with awareness, right? And it's important just because you declare it and claim it doesn't mean everything magically is going to be easy, right? So let's come back down to reality because when you're conditioning for years, you believe the opposite. Life taught you you were worthy. So even when you know you're worthy, self-hate will still try to pop in. So what happens next? For me, once I understand my worth, I had to start moving differently, right? I had to start going after things that I said I wanted, right? If I said I wanted a healthy relationship, something I had never had or seen, I had to learn what that even looks like. So I started observing healthier relationships. I started reading, listening, putting myself around people who were living the things that I said I wanted. I brought it into my vision. I started setting boundaries. I started asking myself, what do I actually want? Not what I was taught to want, not what kept other people comfortable. And fear showed up too, right there. But instead of letting fear stop me, I start paying attention to it, right? Because fear isn't always bad, right? Sometimes it's just an indicator, right? So I start running from fear and start talking to it, right? Fear would be like, don't go on that stage. You never done that before. And I'll be like, yeah, I know. I might be stuttering. My heart might be racing. I might even mess up, but that's the only way I'm going to learn how to be here. And I'm going to be here. And the more I show up, the more this become normal, right? And then I created a new norm. So the goal isn't to eliminate fear. The goal is to let fear be there without letting it control it. So when fear pop up, I say, I see you. I know you're trying to protect me, but right now I'm going to need you to go support me from the back row, right? And that's how self-hate slowly loses power. Not because you're for self-love, but because you choose yourself, even when it's uncomfortable. Okay? So now I want to talk about choosing yourself, even when it's uncomfortable, right? Because for us to do or accomplish anything outside of us, we first have to deal with what's inside of us, right? Like I said, healthy relationships, jobs, opportunities, peace, all of that is great, but none of that matters if you don't love yourself. I gotta first love me to get there, right? So let's circle back to developing this self-love. What we're going to do right now is I'm going to help you start developing self-love in small baby steps, right? Just things that you can actually do on a day-to-day basis. When self-love comes self-acceptance and self-worth, right? We have to accept ourselves. We have to accept our decisions and we have to believe that we're worthy because we can make decisions, right? But believing we're worthy of the decisions that we make is what helps us make healthier decisions. And once we start accepting ourselves and once we start believing we're worthy, then that trickles down into how we treat ourselves. And the more we make decisions that align with who we are, we'll slowly start developing love for who we are. So what I want to do right now is walk you through a self-acceptance exercise. The best way for me to do this is through my own experience and talking how I use it. So one of the biggest things that I struggle with is the realm of self-acceptance was my appearance. And I'm going to use this as an example when we're doing the exercise, okay? With my appearance, I didn't think that I was pretty. I didn't think that I was like gorgeous. I wasn't the world standard of beauty. I wear these big ass glasses, right? I got moles all over my goddamn face. If you can look, you can see I got 3 tones. I'm light skinned, I'm dark skinned, I'm caramel, all at the same time. Then I got this gap right here. Like, I didn't feel like I could walk into a room and make people stop and stare for the right reasons, right? I feel like I was literally just here. I was just existing. So I didn't accept that I was beautiful, right? And that became a problem because anytime someone would give me a compliment, say that I was pretty or beautiful, I will allow that to be my center of attention, right? Like, you see me, I see me. And I will keep wanting to get validation from that person. So I would do anything and everything to make sure that validation stayed. But in order for me to feel beautiful, I had to let go of me, right? I had to conform into their standard of beauty. So I had to look for validation through them. So I had to start people pleasing. I had to start abandoning myself just to get that validation. And I had to realize this was happening because I didn't accept myself for who I am. So for us to accept who we are, I want to help you go through this process of accepting yourself. I want you to go through the process of the 4 A's, right? Acknowledgement, allow, accommodate, and accept. So let's start with step 1, which is acknowledgement, right? The first thing you have to do is acknowledge what is coming up for you. I want you to say it out loud, whatever it is. For me, it was, I don't feel beautiful. I don't feel like I match the world standard of beauty. The world says beauty looks like this and that, and I don't fit in that. I acknowledge what came up, right? Now, step 2 is allow. Allow means allow it to have a place in your life. You get to allow this to be present, right? You don't have to like it. You don't have to agree with it. You don't have to resist it either. Because just because a thought comes into your head doesn't automatically make it true. We allow for thoughts to come in. It's your choice to choose whether to do something with the thought. So I'm allowed for thoughts to come through to say, I agree that I don't fit in the world standard of beauty, and I accept that. That also doesn't make it true that I'm not beautiful, right? So for us to accept who we are, I want to help you go through the process of accepting yourself, right? And I want to go through the process using the 4 A's. Acknowledgement, allow, accommodate, and appreciate. So let's start with step 1, which is acknowledge, right? The first thing you have to do is acknowledge what is coming up for you. I want you to say it out loud. Whatever it is, say it out loud. For me, it was, I don't feel beautiful. I don't feel like I match the world standard of beauty. The world said beauty looked like this and that, and I don't fit that. I acknowledge what came up. Now, step 2 is allow. Allow means allow it to have a place in your life. You get to allow this to be present, right? You don't have to like it. You don't have to agree with it, but you don't have to resist it either. Because just because a thought comes up into your head doesn't automatically make it true. We can allow a thought to come up. It's our choice whether we act on the thought or not. So as I allow my thoughts to come through, I say, I agree that I don't fit the world standard of beauty. And I accept that. But that also doesn't make it true that I'm not beautiful. 2 things can be true at the same time. I may not fit the world standard of beauty, and I can still be beautiful. 2 things can exist at once. Now, step 3, accommodate. This is where you make room for what you're feeling and what you don't like and you don't feel like you control. So I realized this because I did not feel like I fit the standards. I was starving for validation. I need people to choose me so I could choose me. So I made accommodations in my life for validations to exist. But once I allow that space to be present, I came to the realization that I get to define beauty for myself. I had to accept that beauty doesn't actually have a standard, that something that the world conditioned me to believe. Now, let's move into step 4, appreciate. This is the last step. I had to appreciate what the struggle taught me. It showed me how much I was craving validation. It showed me where I was abandoning myself, and it showed me what I needed to start giving myself. And I appreciated myself a lot more now. It showed me where I was lacking and where I needed to improve. It also helped me understand that beauty is from the inside out, right? I radiate beauty because I am a great person, because I am beautiful from the inside that radiate on the outside. And I accept that not everyone will see my beauty. And I also accept that I don't need your approval to believe that I am beautiful. My feelings is the only one that is valid in this situation. So for you, I want you to take these steps and do them exactly the same. I want you to acknowledge what you're not accepting about yourself. I want you to allow a space for it. I want you to look at the accommodations that you made for them to exist. And then I want you to accept yourself in this process, right? I want you to recognize what it taught you and how you're going to move forward in this journey of self-acceptance. And before we wrap up, I already know what some of you are saying or thinking, like, Rose, that was a lot, right? That was a lot. And I know podcasts are on a go experience. So you're probably at work or you're listening while you're driving, or a lot of stuff is going on around you and you don't have the time or to really process that or write it down. So let me say this. You don't have to do anything right now, right? Every exercise that I give you on this podcast has a worksheet to go with it. And the worksheet is inside the Facebook group, Sister Let's Heal Together, and our resource center. So don't worry. I got you. So if today isn't a day, that's okay. When you hit this roadblock again, you'll know exactly where to go. And talking about roadblocks, this will be the last episode on roadblocks. I will be moving into how to create safety, just like I promised you in episode 2. We'll be talking about creating safety in our healing process so that we stop feeling stuck and making excuses. So episode 6 is loading right now. Why do we keep starting healing and pulling back when things get uncomfortable? Before I go, I want to bring us back to where we started. The quote from Maya Angelou: our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frighten us. Your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We are all meant to shine as children do. It's not just in some of us. It is in everyone. And as we let our light shine, we unconsciously give other people the permission to do the same. As we liberate from our fears, our presence automatically liberates others. And I'm going to leave that right there. You do with it as you please, but I'm going to sip my tea on that one, right? Before I sign out, I really want to say thank you so much again. Thank you for spending your time here with me. Time is valuable and it's not refundable, and it's something that we never get back. So the fact that you chose to sit with me, listen, and stay with me to the end, that means a lot. I don't take that lightly. And I truly hope something that I shared today helped you. And if it didn't, please tell me in the comments. If you're not in our Facebook group, Sister Let's Heal Together, I would really love for you to join us. It's a judge-free space. It's a place where we continue these conversations, a place where you don't have to explain yourself and just be present. You're welcome to join whenever you're ready. Until next time, signing out, your sister Love Rose. Bye.